What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my 2025 Big Ten football predictions for the upcoming 2025 college football season. Yesterday, I gave you my SEC football predictions for 2025, and then I also gave you my conference champions. So if you have not seen that video, be sure to go back and check it out right here on the channel. We are now doing the Big Ten. We still got the Big 12 coming up, and then also the ACC, and then we also still got my playoff predictions coming up in the next few days. But now we're doing the Big Ten, so we'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top. And like yesterday, I'm going to give you my conference champion at the end of this video as well. So let's start here at the bottom for these Big Ten football prediction standings. And at the bottom here, so we got the first three teams. Remember, there are 18 teams here in the Big Ten. First off, we got 2 3-9 teams. We got Maryland and Purdue. They're both predicted to go 3-9 according to my predictions. Maryland, though, winless in the Big Ten, and then Purdue with one win in the Big Ten at 1-8. So you look at this Maryland team. I'm not really high on this team this year. You know, they just have so many question marks on both sides of the football. Yeah, this is a team that I just feel like is going to be the worst team in the Big Ten this year. It's kind of hard to say that because I feel like Purdue might be the worst team as well because they do have a first-year head coach. But I think with this Big Ten football expansion, you know, Maryland is just not going to be very good this year. And they haven't been really, you know, they used to be like so consistent as a program in this conference, and they just haven't been able to kind of get things going. Last year was the first year in the Big Ten expansion, so maybe they turn things around this year, but just so many question marks on both sides of the football. Yeah, I don't think this team is going to be all that great this year. I don't think they'll be terrible, but, you know, it's kind of hard to, you know, call a team a terrible team when you just haven't seen them play on the field yet, so we'll see what happens here for Maryland, but I got them at 3-9, but winless in the Big Ten. And then for Purdue, 3-9, 1-8 in conference play, and I do got them at least getting a win. So I think Purdue is not going to go winless this year in the conference. I think they'll pull off some big win this year, you know, on their schedule. Yeah, their schedule is tough, but I do got them beating Rutgers. That's the only win I had for them on that schedule in the Big Ten. But I still got this team going 3-9 because they do have a tough non-conference schedule, and like I said, they can go winless in the Big Ten, and they could still be the worst team in the Big Ten again for, like, you know, maybe the second straight year in a row, or actually the third straight year in a row, if that makes sense. So yeah, the Boilermakers at 3-9, 1-8 in conference play. We'll see what Barry Odom can do for this team. And you look at Iowa here. That's actually not the right prediction. I actually had this team going 4-8 instead of 6-6, but 2-7 in conference play. Yeah, that prediction is actually wrong. It's actually at 4. It's actually supposed to be at 4-8 instead of 6-6, so I messed up my graphic there. So yeah, 4-8 is what my prediction is for Iowa. You know, the depth does concern me here for Iowa this year. I know people saying are going to, you know, that the Hawkeyes are going to be better this year, and they could be a top 25 team and a potential dark horse team in the Big Ten. I just do not see that happening here for this Iowa team. I do like their starting lineup. I do like the addition that they got at quarterback and everything, but still, this is an Iowa team that, you know, the depth does worry me here for the Hawkeyes. And yeah, that depth just really has to get things figured out. If they do have injuries on the way, then they probably will not be like the best team in the country, and they probably will have a disappointing year. But again, that graphic is wrong. I meant to have this team at 4-8 instead of 6-6, but maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe they go 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, or maybe they can go 9-3, because this team is a powerhouse in the Big Ten. Not a powerhouse program like, you know, Ohio State or Oregon like, but they usually are, you know, consistent, and sometimes they're like competitive against some of the better teams in the conference. But yeah, that graphic is wrong. It's meant to be at 4-8, and then 2-7 in the conference is right though for this graphic. So let's now go to the next set of teams here in the Big Ten. We got Rutgers and Michigan State, both predicted to go 5-7, 2-7 in conference play. You know, these two teams missing out on a bowl game because of their schedules, in my opinion. The Scarlet Knights, they have a very tough schedule this year. I think if they beat Purdue, though, that's the team, again, that I have Rutgers losing to, and that's the only game that I have Purdue winning in the conference this year. If Rutgers win that game, I feel like they go 6-6, but you look at their schedule, they got a pretty tough schedule this year compared to last year. Michigan State, kind of the same kind of schedule that they had from last season. So, yeah, Michigan State and Rutgers, these are two teams that definitely probably can make it to bowl games this year. We'll talk about the other 5-7 team that you're seeing up there just a moment. You got Washington here at 6-6, 3-6 in conference play. I think Washington actually can do better than that 6-6 record. I think Jedd Fisch has got this program heading in the right direction. They had a pretty solid year last year. This could be a 7 or 8 win type team this year, and they could potentially be a dark horse in the Big Ten. But I think it's going to take some time because, I don't think they're quite up to that level like they used to be when they were in the Pac-12 under Kalen DeBoer. But I think, Jedd Fisch has got them, got them in the right direction. And I feel like this team is going to have a bright future with him as the head coach. So yeah, the Huskies here at 6-6, 3-6 in conference play, heading into their second year in the Big Ten. And then you got Wisconsin. Another 5-7 team here at 3-6 though in the conference. Wisconsin has one of the toughest schedules in the country in my opinion, and then also one of the toughest schedules in the Big Ten as well. They do got Alabama in the non-conference, so one of their losses does come in the non-conference. They get 3 Big Ten wins though at least, and that's how they would end up being ahead of Washington because of the head-to-head. So yeah, that's what the tiebreaker came down to. And then same thing with UCLA. They don't play Wisconsin in the regular season, I believe, but they do play Washington, and I got them winning the head-to-head. So even though they got the same conference records, UCLA, I got them winning that conference matchup in the season. So yeah, UCLA, Wisconsin, and Washington, they're all predicted to go 3-6 in conference play. Michigan State and Rutgers, these are two teams that potentially could make it to bowl games this year. Wisconsin could potentially make it to a bowl game, but because of how tough their schedule is and the fact that they had to play Alabama in the non-conference, that's the reason why I do got this team going 5-7. And under Luke Fickell, they just have not been able to get it going. So we'll see if Wisconsin has definitely a better season under him. UCLA, I feel like UCLA is going to make it to a bowl game. Last year they were 5-7. This year I think they go 6-6. I think the future is pretty bright for Deshaun Foster in this UCLA football program. They added Nico Amaliava, of course, in the transfer portal. But how well will he do for this system under UCLA? That's definitely going to be the biggest question mark. And for some of these transfers, how well can they fit into this system? That'll definitely be the question mark for some of these teams in the Big Ten. All right, so let's go down to the next set of teams here in the conference. We got Northwestern also at 6-6 and then 3-6 in conference. I feel like Northwestern is going to be a sneaky good team in the Big Ten this year. This is a potential dark horse team in my opinion. Early on in the season, I wasn't really as high on this team, but now that I look at them, I feel like they have a chance to be a little bit better than expected. And yeah, the Wildcats definitely could have a pretty tremendous season in 2025. And I do got them beating UCLA in the head-to-head. So those two teams both have 3-6 conference records, but they have the same overall record. But I got the Wildcats beating the Bruins in the regular season matchup. So that's how Northwestern ended up being ahead of UCLA. So I got the Wildcats at 6-6, 3-6 in conference play. Minnesota at 7-5, 4-5 in conference play. I think Minnesota will be right there in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten Conference. Under PJ Fleck, they should be able to get to a bowl game this year. Be right there around 6, 7, 8 wins, somewhere in that particular range. I don't really think they'll be like a contender in the Big Ten because, this Big Ten expansion, some of these some of these teams that are in the middle of the pack, they're going to have a pretty tough time getting up there with the top teams in the conference. So yeah, Minnesota here at 7-5, 4-5 in conference play. I think they do make it to a bowl game this year, and they should be a pretty decent team and a really consistent team as well. USC at 8-4, 5-4 in conference play. I think USC is going to have a better season compared to last year. Last year's schedule was pretty tough for them. It's another tough schedule, but can they upgrade on the defensive side of the football? That'll definitely be the question mark, because if that defense gets upgraded and that offense continues to be explosive like it always is under Lincoln Riley, this USC team could be a dangerous team, and they could be a top dark horse team in the Big Ten and potentially a top 25 team. So watch out for this USC team in 2025. Nebraska and Michigan both at 9-3, but the Cornhuskers at 6-3, and then Michigan at 7-2 in conference play. Nebraska is also another team that I think could be sneaky good this year. year. Last season they were 6-6. Probably could have done better than that 6-6 record. You look at their schedule this year, it does give them a chance to be a potential dark horse team, and then also potentially be a top 25 team. Really what it comes down to, though, for Nebraska is can they win some, games where they've had some close games, and they ended up losing those close games. But last year, I think they were definitely a little bit better compared to where they've been over the course of the years under a program. So yeah, Nebraska, I think Matt Rule's got this team heading in the right direction. And they do have a future quarterback in Dylan Raiola that is capable of having a pretty good season. So, yeah, Nebraska is a team to keep an eye on. Same thing with USC. I think these two teams are two teams that you definitely want to watch out for in the Big Ten this year as potentially being dark horse teams. Same thing with Michigan. I don't think Michigan is back to being a top contender in the Big Ten just yet. But this team, I got them going 9-3, 7-2 in conference play. So you're probably wondering where that third loss comes from. Well, 2 out of those 3, losses come in the Big Ten, but then the third loss comes in the non-conference against Oklahoma. I have them losing that game on the road, and that's in week 2. And you got a freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood taking over. We don't know how good this guy is going to be. He's one of the top players, coming out of high school. But yeah, we'll see how better he can get. I think he'll get better as the second half of the season probably rolls around. First half, I just think it's going to take him some time. So yeah, Michigan, though, I got this team going 9-3. Last year was definitely a big step back for them, but I feel like this team is back on the right direction. But again, I don't think they're back to being a top contender, and I don't know if they can make the college football playoff this year just yet. But yeah, Michigan here at 9-3, 7-2 in conference play, and then we go to the final set of teams here in this conference. We got Illinois and Indiana. They are both predicted to go 10-2, 7-2 in conference play. Both of these teams, of course, were very big surprises last year. Indiana, I got them ahead of Illinois because of the head-to-head matchup. Yeah, those two teams are tied at 10-2 and then 7-2 in conference play. So yeah, we have actually a 3-way tie actually for the it seems like the 4th place spot. But for Indiana, I feel like this team is not going to take a step back this year. Maybe they can go 8-4, 9-3, but I like the addition that they got coming in at quarterback with Mendoza. He's a pretty good runner for this Indiana football team. Or I shouldn't say, he was actually a really good runner for California last year, and I think he'll definitely provide a spark for this Indiana offense. You look at the Illinois, they have a lot of experience coming back. I know people are saying that Illinois is going to be definitely not really as good as they were last year. Maybe they're not. Maybe I'm overrating this team just a little bit, but still, I think they'll be just fine. I think Luke Allmeyer does give them, potential to be a dark horse team in the Big Ten this year. I think Indiana, Illinois, Nebraska, Michigan, and then probably USC are probably your dark horse teams. And then you got your top teams here with Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. And yeah, we got a 3-way tie here actually for the first place spot. But what really came down to the tiebreaker here with these 3 teams, with Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. Look, Ohio State and Oregon don't play each other during the regular season, but Ohio State, I got them beating Penn State. Penn State does play Oregon during the regular season, and I got the Nittany Lions winning that head-to-head matchup, so that would make sense to put Penn State here ahead of the Ducks. And then for Ohio State and Penn State, I do have the Buckeyes beating Penn State in the regular season matchup, so that's what the tiebreaker really came down to. Again, Ohio State and Oregon don't play each other, but I think it does come down to the strength of schedule. Also, between these two teams, Ohio State definitely has a tougher schedule, in my opinion, than Oregon does because they have a non-conference game against Texas, and I mentioned that yesterday. I do have the Buckeyes losing that first game of the season to Texas, but I do got them going 8-1 in conference play. I still think this team does make it to the Big Ten championship, and then Penn State, if they beat Oregon, I think they have an excellent path to get to the Big Ten championship. Again, that one loss coming to Ohio State during the regular season game, and that game is in Columbus. So that's where the loss does come from here for Penn State. And that's also my championship game prediction. So that does bring me to my Big Ten football prediction. Championship game here between Ohio State and Penn State. A rematch from the regular season. I got Ohio State winning that first game of the regular season. And how many times did we see that last year? In the history of college football nowadays, that the team that won the first time wins the second time. And I think it probably could happen here in this game because, Penn State under James Franklin, they have not been able to win those big games, and they just can't seem to beat Ohio State, it seems like, every year. The Buckeyes have definitely had Penn State's number in the past few years now, and Penn State does have an experienced roster coming up, so this could be the year that Penn State definitely wins the Big Ten championship, but I still don't think it will be enough. I know Ohio State definitely has a quarterback that is definitely a little bit younger compared to Will Howard last year, but still, again, James Franklin, I just don't trust him in these big games. I just don't think he can win big games just yet, and I definitely don't trust him to beat Ohio State this year. Not once, not once, but twice. That's definitely going to be impossible if they win the first game. They probably won't beat them the second time, but I got the Buckeyes winning that first game, and I got them winning the second game, so I think Ohio State beats Penn State once in the regular season and then twice here in the Big Ten championship. I'm going Buckeyes to win it all here in the Big Ten in 2025. This was not my prediction last year. I think I had Oregon winning it all, but I'm going to go with the Buckeyes this year in 2025. So yeah, Ohio State, I'm going to go with them to win the Big Ten championship. That's definitely going to put them in a spot for the college football playoff. So those are all my Big Ten football predictions for 2025. Do you guys agree or disagree with these predictions? And also give me your prediction for the Big Ten championship as well, and give me your thoughts on my Big Ten football champion as well. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.